UFC 280 occurred overnight in Abu Dhabi.
This morning for us, but yeah.
Yeah, lent to interesting viewing time. Had to be up very early. I bought the card. I watched the two championship fights as they occurred live, and then you could go back, obviously, and watch the undercard.
Yep.
And yeah, we've got a new lightweight champion of the world in Islam Makhachev, defeating Charles de Bronx Oliveira via a second round submission arm triangle. Boys, thoughts?
Yeah, well, I think Islam very much dominated the fight with the wrestling, took him down, and
it was a very short fight.
Yeah,
very
impressive to get the submission there over Oliveira, who's well known for having the most submissions in the lightweight.
Not in lightweight. I think he's got the most submissions in the UFC with 14. Yeah.
So it's great to be able to finish that. I question maybe the weight cut because it came out. Volk was told overnight, like his team was. They called his team and said, "Hey, make sure Volk's ready." It looks like they're struggling with the weight cut. They didn't name which team, but I've then seen some photos of Oliveira and his team doing the weight cut. I'd say it's most likely was Oliveira. So whether that 155 killed him to get to it and then to go in there up against the bear that is Islam as a wrestler, maybe just didn't have the juice for this one. I think Oliveira will come back. He'll be able to keep his name in that conversation in the lightweight division, or maybe he needs to go up. I think Oliveira is one of those dudes that a 165 division makes too much sense for. Like, he's probably not big enough to be a welterweight at that 170, which would be a 175 in that scenario. But I think like 165 is just perfect for him.
Why would you go up after just vacating at 155?
Because he can't make the weight.
Yeah,
like he's killing himself to get to it.
Famously missed weight, and that's why he had to vacate the belt.
Yeah. There's some controversy around whether he did or not, but still, either way, for him to get to that weight has always been a struggle. And you can see how leading up to it, the weight cut and his team. I don't want to make excuses for it, but I just think maybe that played a little bit of a factor into this one. Hasn't hurt him in the past with all these other wins, but I don't know.
He was on an absolute heater. Hadn't lost for 5 years. That record goes to 33-9, but nearly all of those losses earlier on in his MMA career. Big scalps in Gaethje and Poirier and Michael Chandler and Tony Ferguson. But we've got to talk about the new lightweight champion of the world, Islam Makhachev.
Yeah.
Understudy Khabib. A lot of people were saying, the new Khabib, the new Eagle of Dagestan. I thought, geez, is that a lot of pressure to put on an up-and-coming fighter to be, compared with arguably the greatest fighter of all time? It seems to have handled the pressure pretty well.
Well, I think the big difference, though, is it wasn't just a comparison. Like, he's coached by the bloke.
He's coached by him. His style's the same.
Yeah. I think that makes a big
difference. They're best mates.
Yeah. If it was... we're just comparing you to the GOAT, and you're like, you didn't know the bloke, then you're just like, oh, well, how am I going to compare to that dude? But whereas Islam, in and out every single day, he's, spending time with that guy, so he knows what that means.
Yeah, you're comparing me to my coach and my friend.
Yeah, exactly. A guy that I can then talk to about what I do in those situations and, to learn from. I think it's a bit of a different comparison in that regard, and I think it's fair, and he can deal with it for that reason. So, his record speaks for itself, 23-1. He's had a quick ascendancy in the lightweight division, but for good reason. Did, of course, the story called out Volk, the short man.
The short man.
Which will be it will be an interesting kind of fight there.
Will Dana make this happen? You'd think so.
I think so. Like Perth, I think we've already talked about it, UFC 284 coming up. Well, maybe it's too short of a turnaround.
That's booked for late January,
or late January, early Feb. Yeah,
that's enough. It's 3 months.
I think it was the 12th of Feb.
Yeah, but that it kind of means that Islam probably needs to go straight back into fight camp. Like maybe he takes 2 weeks off and then's in fight camp leading up to it, which he might not want to do. But you never know. Either way,
I think it makes sense.
That's the fight. Yeah, I think he already Dana's already said Volk would get the winner.
Yep.
So that came out. He was the backup for this. One of the two didn't make it. But yeah.
How if you're Alexander Volkanovski and you've got to go up a weight class, Do you think he's feeling confident that he can
I think talent wise, he's definitely
keep it going
I just
after cleaning out that featherweight division?
Yeah, I just don't know. Islam's probably the worst potential must-up.
Different beast, isn't he?
Yeah, size in the wrestling. It's Volk's got a great takedown defense, but it is again. It's still just it's a different animal. Like I have to say, I'm not ever concerned about the height, the size, like the reach kind of side of it, because he's fought Holloway multiple times, and he's the same size as Oliveira is. Like, I'm not too concerned about that. But I think maybe more the strength and the kind of game that Islam kind of brings with that
you don't want to
wrestling
go to ground with
style.
that guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I'm interested.
Fucking
That's
oath,
the
I'm
main
interested.
thing. I'm interested.
How good is
I'd
this
like to
card
see.
going to be if that does eventuate? Let's talk about it briefly now.
Yeah, yep.
Bobby Knuckles.
Bobby Knuckles, yep.
Announced will be taking on Polo. I drink wine before a championship fight.
Goonbag Costa.
In Perth.
Yep. Well, which will be the
first
co-main.
fight down under in many years.
Well, I think that's been definitely named as the co-main. Whether that ends up being what the main event ends up being, whether this ends up being it, I don't know. I kind of interesting because I think Bobby's doing Israel's job for him at the moment. He's taking care of all the challenges.
Taking
Victoria's
care of
gone.
business.
Whether if he gets past Costa doing that as well, and I guess Israel's got his opponent set in Pereira next. But
How sexy is that going to be?
yeah,
Just
but
quietly.
I think if Bobby gets the win again, he's kind of said, "Hey, I've been doing the job clearing out the division for you. It's you and me again, baby. Let's run that trilogy."
Lead blocker.
Yeah, so, exactly. It's one hell of a gatekeeper to have as a number one title challenge.
fucking oath it is.
Contender. So anyway, I think, like you said, great fight. And
Bit of controversy in Hamzat Chimaev getting into a bit of push and shove with Abu Bakr Nurmagomedov and the
who had a win, I think, on the undercard.
He did have a win on the undercarve. Does Hamzat need to cool his jets a little bit? He's starting to become known as a bit of a bad boy, as a bit of a hothead.
I wonder if he's leaning into the villain.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe
Yeah.
a little bit.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Because you saw the UFC signed Hasbulla to do a fight.
How good is that? Little baby Hasbulla.
Yeah, so you can see that there's the bit of the showmanship part of it, and the storylines make fights, and whether that's the case, and that's kind of what he's pushing here.
You don't want it to become too WWE-esque, though, do you? Where it's all about the theatre and the storyline.
There is a little bit of history between these two, at least the teams.
Yeah, sure.
I definitely the teams
Gone around on Twitter and stuff, so maybe there's some background there. And I mean, the Nurmagomedov's team, obviously very fiery, like off the McGregor fight and all that sort of stuff. So,
but
I think
Hamza,
a lot of push and shove, a lot of beating a chess spot.
Exactly, but Hamzat, he should be angling for a title fight at this point. He doesn't need to be getting into it with guys on the undercard. So.
I love watching him fight, but I'm starting to get the feeling like maybe he just needs to keep his head down and bum up and get on with things a little bit.
Well, we'll have to see. We'll have to see.
The co-main event, Aljamain Sterling. We've got and you in Islam Makhachev. We've got and still at 135 pounds, taking care of business against TJ Dillashaw. I did like that the TJ Dillashaw coming out to "Can't Stop Addicted to the Shindig" got me a little bit fired up. But that shoulder of TJ Dillashaw, it popped out twice during the fight. He said post-fight that he reckons in the camp it came out maybe 20 times.
I've seen plenty of jokes. It's not the only thing he was popping out, so or popping in, or he'll pop off. He had an excellent rig going into this old Dillashaw, but didn't matter. Sterling did the job to him.
What do you see Sterling's rig? I reckon he's probably been having a talk with him.
Yeah, Sterling.
Allegedly. On the Esky.
Looking very good there.
He looks fucking big for 135 pounds, doesn't he, old Aljo?
Yeah. If anything, I think maybe that's what Volk should be tackling.
Maybe down.
Or no, not down. Like Sterling coming up, maybe. But I guess that doesn't help his double champ.
I know.
But anyway.
Volk is short for a featherweight, but famously used to play rugby league.
He's thick, though.
He's thick. I don't know if he could go down. Maybe Aljo could go up.
Yeah, I think Aljo could go up.
Also, Volk doesn't have to take that fight. He's probably earned the right to go up.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense in that regard. But I just making fights that are interesting. I think TJ, that means he'll go back to the back burner for quite a while, and I'm not sure who else we've got bannerweight as contenders now with Well, actually, no. Sean O'Malley, I guess. Jump straight to the queue.
I don't know if he'll get it, considering that he hasn't beaten anyone of note outside of Piotr Jan.
But Jan's number one. So.
That's true. I think Cheeto Vera might say, hey, hang on, let's have a rematch there. Aljo after the fight saying he doesn't care if you give me Sugar Tits O'Malley or if you give me Cheeto Doritos. He's happy to fight whoever comes back up. But Aljo, starting to really stake a claim as a title holder that is above and beyond the other guys in that division. There was probably a bit of speculation after that first win against Jan, it being the disqualification and the rest of it. Now maybe this shoulder dislocation, some haters might be talking a bit about it.
The second fight against Jan, he cemented himself. He handily beat him. So.
And I'm pretty convinced if TJ's shoulder doesn't pop out at all in this fight, Aljo still had him covered.
Exactly. So
let's talk about Sugar Sean O'Malley, the formerly 11th ranked bantamweight, going out and beats Piotr Jan in the most contentious fight of the night, split decision.
Very, very close fight.
29-28, two judges scored it to O'Malley, and 29-28, one judge scored it to Piotr Jan. Thoughts?
So I think your notes covered it there. It comes down first round. Second round, heavily dominated by Jan, and third round, more so with the significant strikes, a bit of blood in that involved as well to O'Malley. So it kind of came down to the first round. Stats-wise from media, I think it was about, if I do the maths right, I think it was 83% thought Jan won with, 14 thinking it to O'Malley with a couple of percent, either way, for draws and things like that. Mm-hmm. I think it was like a 40% to, 29-28 to Jan, and then like a 30%, 30 to 27 to Jan, and then the smaller percentages to an O'Malley victory. And that's across media personality, across all the different guys that do UFC coverage and across all the various websites, etc. So there's a heavy kind of push there to Jan. So the first round ends up being the conversation. And rewatching that, I think there was two significant punches landed for O'Malley, one for Jan. Both had stuffed takedowns that didn't amount to anything. The slam takedown probably being the big one.
Big slam.
For Jan, with a couple of shots on the ground. Yes, I can see the coin toss and why maybe two judges picked it, and over that, I kind of lean towards Jan maybe got that first round from what I saw. So maybe, hard done by in that decision. And considering he's 1-3, I think, in his last fights, and two of them being contentious split decisions, it's been a bit unlucky for Jan.
You think the UFC has it in for him?
I don't want to. Well, there was all that conversations about he's the champ. We'll do a UFC in Russia, etc.
Sean O'Malley, the darling of that division in terms of marketability,
exactly,
following, and the rest of it.
So tinfoil hats.
I'm not a big conspiracy theory man, but I'll entertain the idea.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I could have seen it drawn in this fight as well.
Yeah, that'd be a letdown, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but either way, it was kind of a flip of the coin. Maybe Jan had to do more on that first, but I think he got away with the first round. In my opinion, watching it, I thought he won the first round. So it would have been 2-1.
Scoring aside, if you look at the way that Piotr Jan looked after the fight, and you look at the way that Sugar Sean O'Malley looked after the fight, considering that massive split over Piotr's right eyebrow area and him pissing blood, scoring aside, you'd say Sean O'Malley wins the fight.
Maybe, but that's why I score it round and round.
That is true.
He won the last round definite, which is where he did that damage.
Yeah.
And that's something that you mentioned in the group chat today. Does damage outweigh control? Because obviously Jan had control of the whole second round and the majority of the fight, but the damage that Sean was able to unload in those significant strikes, do you take that into account?
Well, he won that round. So the problem, I guess the question is the damage in the for me, the two big punches to the one versus plus the takedown and a couple shots on the ground is that what outweighs? And that's why they've gone with Sean, as he had more damaging shots overall in that first round.
Well, that's it. Like
It's
as much as Jan got those takedowns, he didn't really capitalize on him too much. Like he didn't really do too much on the ground. Like sure, he controlled him through the end of the rounds, but then O'Malley was still able to get back up in that first round. He ended the round with a couple good hits, which sort of, I guess, for the first round swung the momentum to O'Malley towards the end of that first round. So maybe just the fact that Jan wasn't able to do too much while he was on the ground.
Yeah, it's pretty rare for a guy to have 6 takedowns to 0 and A, lose a fight and B, not be able to capitalise really from those takedowns.
So overall, I don't think it hurts Jan too much. I think he might move down a spot in the rankings. I don't think O'Malley, whether he goes straight to 1 or whether he's, say, top 4, I don't know. But yeah,
does he get the first shot at Aljo? From a marketing perspective, again, tinfoil hat, it kind of makes sense. Yeah.
I think to be fair to Jan, you'd probably run this one back. I don't know if you'd have O'Malley fight someone else in between.
I don't think O'Malley
couldn't do that.
I think in Jan's say Jan would want to run it back. I don't think O'Malley would do it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be interesting. Let us know in the comments. We might clip this and do a UFC 280 review. Obviously, the most contentious fight of the night and maybe the most interesting talking point.
Yep.
Yeah, agree. Definitely.
The other lightweight fight that happened on the night was Beneil Dariush defeating Mateusz Gamrot. Unanimous decision, definitely not as contentious as the fight after it. 8 win streak now for the Iranian-born Beneil Dariush. He's going up there now in lightweight total wins, not far behind Charles Oliveira in that regard. Complete fight from Dariush. Probably just wanted to touch on the post match, speaking to his homeland of Iran and to stay strong. Obviously, we've seen bits and pieces of what's going on over there.
A lot of shit.
Yeah, essentially. But the bloke can fight. His age probably a bit of concern moving forward. Monks, how old is Beneil Dariush? Mid-30s?
Yeah, it's 33.
33. He looks a bit older.
He does.
No disrespect. Look, I don't think he'll be a lightweight champ. I don't think that's going out on a limb to say that. But a very complete performance.
This is his run. He's on an 8-fight win streak. He probably needs one fight in the top 5 and get that win, and then potentially you're in that conversation for lightweight. But as we mentioned, the lightweight is kind of occupied and busy at the moment with the Volkanovski fight, etc.
Exactly, yeah. You got the fact that Volk's going to come up and that's going to be your title fight. And then that top 5 in the lightweight division is as good as any that there is getting around with Dustin Poirier and Justin Gaethje and Michael Chandler. So he'll get one of those names, you'd think, moving forward. But hard to see him getting a shot at the title. But who knows? 2 or 3 fights and he's 35 and he keeps stringing wins together. You never know.
Him and Chandler would be a good matchup, I reckon.
Yeah, that'd be good. That'd be cool to watch. It'd be cool to watch.
I think there's a conversation Chandler and McGregor.
Everyone wants Conor. Everyone will say, sorry, Beneil.
But I think Dana said you wouldn't see Conor until December anyway. So
interesting.
Yeah, okay.